I will be moderating today's live session. I'm joined by Dave Croto, one of our senior solution architects with over 20 years of experience in the cybersecurity industry, working formerly with companies such as Splunk, Symantec, and Exabeam. Before we jump in, just a few quick housekeeping notes. Ask questions, please. You can type them in the box labeled questions just under the webinar window, assuming you're not in full screen mode. And you can submit a question at any time, and we will answer those questions live at the end. Usually within 48 hours of this live session, you will get a thank you email with a link to the recording for future viewing and reference. Lastly, sometimes BrightTalk defaults to 480p. Don't ask me why. Maybe there's people still on DSL and dial-up, unfortunately. So if your resolution looks bad, you can also click the settings button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and adjust your resolution as needed. All right, so SIEMs really have gotten a bad rap with declining detections, skyrocketing costs, inadequate visibility and control over the data. And so it's understandable. But here's where we flip those myths on their head. In this democast, we bust the myth that SIEMs aren't data friendly. We'll cover how the Gurucul REVEAL security analytics platform can not only help you optimize your data for analytics, but also save you money. And who doesn't love saving money? Now, before I turn it over to Dave for the live demo, just wanted to kind of quickly cover at a high level how it works. So the Gurucul security analytics platform is completely modular and can solve many different use cases. Product capabilities are simply of turning on a product module license. You never have to redeploy the platform or re-ingest data. Common product modules include, of course, SIEM, UEBA, SOAR, OpenXDR, NTA, identity and access analytics, just to name a few. So there's lots of ways and options for getting data into the platform. We spent a lot of R&D on making sure this is easy. These sources can be streamed by collecting data from agents running on maybe a host endpoint, centralized aggregators for on-premises, cloud environments that collect and forward that data, as well as scheduled collection from supported API endpoints, and even directly from low-cost cloud object stores. Now, Data Optimizer, which is what today's webinar is going to focus a lot on, is a module that can provide significant control over the cost of data ingestion, with most sources being reduced 40% out of the box. Of course, it depends. Some sources are super chatty, some are not, and even more reductions with just a little bit of fine tuning. Now, think of Data Optimizer like a giant funnel that collects your data from any source in any format. And it works in a linear flow across 4 core areas. First, you collect the data, you optimize it, and you enhance it, and then you stream it wherever it needs to go. So I mentioned some of the different methods of collection, but this data can be in any format for any security data, identity data, non-security data, and even IT ops data. Optimize, this is where the significant data reductions come from, where you can filter, dedupe, and sample that data before you enrich it. Next, the data is normalized, transformed, and enriched with context and threat intelligence. I'll talk a little bit more about threat intelligence in just a second. And finally, that data is compressed and encrypted and basically routed wherever you need it to go. So this results in 2 output streams, both critical and non-critical data. The all non-critical data as well as the raw data is output to the low-cost storage option of your choice, so nothing is ever lost. It really simplifies compliance. This can be our cloud, it can be your cloud. You can bring your own data lake. It doesn't matter. Now, the important stuff. The critical data is then contextualized and prepared for advanced analytics and fed into the REVEAL platform, which includes out-of-the-box pipelines to simplify that ingestion, over 10,000 pieces of content like dashboards, compliance reports, widgets, machine learning models, saved queries to really help deliver value quickly. Of course, I mentioned it's data lake agnostic, but it's also cloud agnostic and can be deployed anywhere and is architected for ultimate flexibility to ensure that it works within your unique environment. It provides detections in real time using not only your threat intelligence, but also our included threat content as a service from Gurucul's Threat Labs and our detection engineering team, along with machine learning model chaining, where basically you can connect multiple models together from different resources in these if-then statements to really ensure the highest fidelity detections. Now, this is all output. Is dynamic risk prioritized alerts and cases. These cases include a full complement of evidence with that 360-degree context, so you know what happened before, during, after, and all the events that are related or surrounding that case. Investigations are powered by our subject matter expert AI to really help streamline and reduce those investigation times as well as the time to respond so that you can automate risk prioritized and context-driven responses with our tightly integrated SOAR module. Or, of course, you can bring your own. And then lastly, while this webinar isn't necessarily focused on this, it's important to understand that within a single unified console, you can search all data that ran through the data optimizer, as well as our Reveal platform. And with our universal federated search, any data can be searched anywhere, regardless of its location or whether it's inside our ecosystem or not, to ensure that you've got full visibility and gain those deeper investigative insights. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave for the demo.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Looking for my screen share here. Here we go. Share. There we go. Everybody see my the desktop here?
Affirmative.
So thanks, Chris. I'd like to also welcome you all to Gurucul's Data Optimizer Bright Talk Democast today. And as Chris mentioned, my name is Dave Croto, and I've been with Gurucul for about 2 years as a senior solutions architect. And prior to that, I was with Splunk for about 10 years. So, and even over that, I also had what I call a cup of coffee at Exabeam as well. And right now, I'm properly caffeinated and ready to bring you through a demo of our data optimizer platform here.
All right.
Say again?
I said that's awesome. Properly caffeinated.
Properly caffeinated. It's important, right? So to Christopher's earlier point, you can manage and optimize your data pipelines at or before time of ingest, and you can route, shape, and filter data before it gets ingested, obviously to reduce the cost, but still maintain your security posture. And the last part of that is maintaining your security posture. We have purpose-built pipelines out of the box so that you can answer any sort of security type use case that you'd expect to in any sort of SIEM that you have. Now, Data Optimizer is a standalone product. You don't necessarily need our SIEM. If you have a target for your optimized data to get to before it gets ingested, we can do that. So what you're looking at on this landing page is, like, for instance, the incoming EPS that summarizes all of the information coming in and the events per second that we're gaining, we're actually receiving along with the incoming volume in terms of what it is that we're taking in. And then the other key KPIs that you're looking at here is the amount that we've been able to optimize from an EPS and a volume standpoint here as well. So from a volume standpoint, you're noticing here, obviously, we've been able to optimize about 520 gigabytes of that traffic, and we're looking for specific data that we're piping through our pipelines or flowing through our pipelines and optimizing that data through those purpose-built pipelines that we were looking at here. And as you can kind of go through each one of these sources here, or each one of these KPIs, or what we call widgets, you see here the amount that we've been able to optimize through the platform based on and parsed on individual data sources within the product itself. And you can see all of the usual suspects, from proxy all the way down to your EDR vendor, whatever it happens to have, whatever you happen to be taking into the environment here. For CrowdStrike, it could be the complete flow of data that we have from an event standpoint, taking in from an FDR and an EDR standpoint. as well, being able to optimize over the existing pipelines, again, before it gets ingested into your volume-based products that you do have, or targets, we should say, like, for instance, Splunk. So the way we do this is we have these purpose-built pipelines that come out of the box and allow you to look at how you can create these optimized data streams here. So what you see here is statistics about ingestion status. So for instance, if I'm taking in extra hop data on a frequent basis here, and for if there's happens to be a specific problem with extra hop data, like for instance, I've been able to take in 1 gigabyte of extra hop DNS data over the last 2 days, and today I'm taking in 0 bytes of extra hop data. We create these in just statistic pipelines to allow you to get notified based on an alert if, for instance, we are taking in less data from a magnitude standpoint than we did from a previous standpoint as well. And you can see from this standpoint, if I drill into this pipeline, how these pipelines are actually built here. So from a data optimizer standpoint, you can see here we look at the specific source that's coming in, and we're looking at, for instance, in this specific case, just extra hop data as an example here. And we all know that extra hop data can be, from a DNS perspective, it can be quite chatty. So we don't necessarily want that data in our SIEM. And we want to put it into an S3 bucket in this instance. And then on the back end, use whatever federated search that we do have to be able to access that data. Like, for instance, like Chris had mentioned in our GRA REVEAL product, you do have the concept of federated search so that you could search it. However, it will exist on an S3 bucket in this standpoint. So most of the heavy lifting comes into the filtering aspect, where we're taking in and we're building that pipeline to just say we're only looking for the extra hop DNS data, and the destination or the target of that DNS data would just be an S3 bucket here. And you can see if I pull that down, we have a number of different targets out of the box that we can send data to here. So, for instance, if we're looking at just this is just a simple SQL search that we're running across the back end of that data at time of ingest, and just saying for the resource name or source type, extra hop DNS data, we want it to go directly to that S3 bucket. And this advanced filter gives us the capability of also going even deeper into the message itself and enriching that. And you can see here we're adding specific fields to that data so that we can, based on that federated search earlier that we were talking about here, have a way of looking at and parsing that data and really start pivoting on that data in any sort of search language that you want to look for here. So again, we're taking in the, for this specific, example of a pipeline, we're taking in the event time in ISO 8601 format, and we're looking at all of the log messages, and we're creating just, again, we're just adding the technology that we're taking in, and we're pushing it to the S3 bucket here. So if I go back into the data itself, you can kind of see how you build these data pipelines. Again, most of these data pipelines or purpose-built pipelines have been built for you, and you can really once you look at the out-of-the-box pipelines here, if for some reason extra hop decides that they want to change their logging format, all you have to do is cut and paste a raw message in here. And what we'll do is we'll transform that information and put it into a schema so that you can map that data back into the environment itself. And if I go down those purpose-built pipelines here, you can kind of see here, some of the idea that we do have here with data optimizers, just bringing Windows security data directly to our Gurucul SIEM. We also have a data optimizer Windows security events here, where we're actually taking in only certain Windows events, and we're streaming those to Splunk as well. So for instance, if you you look at what we're doing from this standpoint, from this Splunk pipeline standpoint, is we're only looking to take purpose-built information for specific feeds or specific use cases that we have, like threat detection, fraud and insider threat, and network security, whatever we have. So we only want the relevant, actionable data that we want to push and retain and filter within within that specific pipeline before it gets ingested into the quote unquote index of Splunk that you do have. And that, of course, is going to reduce the cost and improve detection and accuracy and performance across your Splunk environment here. To give you kind of an idea of what we're able to do within that Splunk pipeline. So as you can see here, we have, again, the resource tile that shows you, how we actually dynamically define a resource while we're ingesting the data or prior to ingesting that data. And then again, the filter. The filter aspect of the pipeline is really where the rubber meets the road. So for instance, we're running this just like we showed you in the DNS data. We are only ingesting Windows events from critical event IDs here. And you can kind of see the list of event IDs, everything from a 4624 to a 4625 in login failures and login with explicit credentials, directory service objects, and shared access and process creation events that we're looking at throughout this specific search of that raw data. But we're excluding any created by account names with, let's say, a $sign or in any sort of local services or admin accounts. We're just excluding them here within that search here. And we're also going even further to say, even within those event IDs, we're only want to optimize and only choose specific fields or key value pairs, like, for instance, event type, event date, account name, and security IDs, and account domain and logins, and send them to Splunk only. So this kind of gives you the idea, again, just like we showed you from the S3 bucket, we can send all of that data to any one of the targets or destinations that we have listed here. Of course, you can create your own destination as well. But this gives you the ability to kind of go through and start creating some sort of optimized data pipeline based on the destination. And you can kind of cancel out all of that noise events from, let's say, for instance, the 4634s, that account logoffs or user account creations, whatever it happens to be within your organization. And you can, from an event ID perspective, you can omit any of that fluff field or that fluff fields that you have within these Windows events, like, for instance, task category, severity level. We already know the severity level because we're taking in only the high severity level messages that we're looking in, and certain keywords and lengthy descriptions, process IDs, and threat IDs, amongst others. So we're building that into the pipeline filter here. We're running this Grok filter against that information. Even from an advanced filter standpoint, we're only looking at certain key value pairs within those messages and only bringing those over here. So it's a key, it's a keen way, I should say, of bringing that data in and filtering that and building that security pipeline so that at time of ingest, we can filter out all of that fluff data that you're looking at within those security pipelines. And again, giving you the opportunity to optimize your security play and optimize with these purpose-built pipelines the type of data that represents the use cases from a security standpoint that you're trying to fulfill within your SIEM or within your UBA or even within your ETL, if it happens to be Snowflake. So that is the demonstration here. And again, you can kind of get the idea of, the type of data that we're looking at. If you want to look at the certain queries here for all of the data that we've been able to, if you do have a back-end disk on the the data optimizer, you can look at the activity of the amount of data that we've been able to take in, and we've been able to also filter out here. So for instance, if I want to look at just the DNS data that we were talking about earlier, I can go to the extra hop DNS data, and we can kind of get a view of the type of data that we've been able to filter out and send to, if you remember, we were sending the DNS data to an S3 bucket, and you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like from that perspective as well. So again, all of this key data is built with those out of the box purpose-built pipelines here, but if you go into how the pipeline was built, you can change the trajectory of the data, you can change how it's formatted, and you can start enriching it with things like the technology and network telemetry group that we have here as well. So Chris, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Dave. That was great.